Ready? This is Beach Talk Radio.
Good morning, Mr. and Mrs. America, and all ships at sea. This is your captain speaking, Mean Gene. Mean Gene. The following will be a test of the ship's whistle, the sonar alarm, the cable alarm, and the atomic attack alarm.
Live from Peach Time Out in the heart of Times Square. You're listening to Beach Talk Radio with Kim and Ed Ryan.
And good morning, everybody, and welcome to episode number 212. Coming to you live from Peach Time Out in the Margaritaville district of Fort Myers Beach, Times Square. And before we start this award-winning show, we are going to tell you all about our fabulous paying sponsors. Yes, in exchange for mentions on this award-winning show, we tell you all about these great places that we want you to visit repeatedly and spend your extra money with them and tip well and all of the above.
What awards have you won?
We are on our path to being an award-winning podcast here. Just look.
You're lucky somebody's not throwing tomatoes at us.
Have
right
us
now.
a vision. You have to have a vision of how fabulous things are going to be.
I had a vision. Things didn't turn out like that.
All righty, so here we go. Fort Myers Beach Realty and Coastal Vacation Properties, our two newest sponsors. Thank you to them. And of course, our longest running sponsors who we just can't shake them. They love us so much. No matter what we do, we can't shake them. No matter how much you piss people off and say things you shouldn't say, they still come back for more. Fort Myers Tiki Tours, Nervous Nellies, Mangaritas, State Insurance USA, Sun Palace Vacations, La Ola Restaurant, Tuckaway Cafe, The Beach Pottery, Shuckers, the Farmers Market at the Beach Baptist Church, Island Carts FMB, JPS Vacation Rentals, and of course our home base for now coming up on 4 years, the world famous Peach Time Out. Welcome to my lovely sidekick and wife of 27 years, Kimberly Rose Ryan. Is that your middle name?
Nope.
It's Ann, right? Kimberly Ann Ryan. You are matching fabulously today. I want to say that. I'd like to start the show off with a compliment. And I saw the dress that you'll be wearing tonight to the shindig, the big shindig that we're going to. The where are we going?
Lovers Key.
Lovers Key. We're going to do some slow dancing and some smoocheroonie at the Lovers Key State Park.
Nope. This is my dance space. I'm going to use your chalk there and draw
tonight,
my dance
we'll be
space
at
out.
Lovers Key for their annual Gala. And, you know, I made a mistake last night, and I know this happens every once in a while. I said, what is business casual or beach casual?
Well,
it's not really correct. I asked the wrong
formal,
question.
though.
It's beach formal.
Correct.
So there's no flip-flops tonight. There's there's dress up, kind of. Not all the way dress up, but dress up kind of.
Yeah. I don't have any long gowns, so I hope what I have is going to be
I'm sure you're going to
appropriate.
look stunning, and you're going to be the most beautiful woman in all of where are we going? Lovers Key.
What have you done? What have you done? Have
I've
you
done
ordered
nothing.
something? You've spent money or something because you're acting very funny.
I didn't order anything.
I will say we had we yesterday we could have ordered a lot of stuff from where we were because that place was great.
We
Where
had a
were we
great
yesterday,
time at
dear?
the Farmers Market at the Beach Baptist for a special Friday show. And really, if you didn't see that live, you should go back and watch. We were able to interview, thanks to Linda, every single vendor, pretty much. Every single vendor at the Farmers Market, including the cheese guy.
Yep.
I've never met somebody that was so into cheese. Like,
he knows a lot
that
about
guy
cheese.
knew a lot about cheese.
And Brian from Hooked Up Fish Market, he knew a lot about fish.
Yes, Sean, the weather here is beautiful. By the way, it's like 70-ish, maybe not even 70 yet. And it's cool and it's sunny.
We also have to say the coffee is phenomenal. We did purchase some coffee from Sun Ground. That's S-O-N, Sun Coast.
And it goes to all the mission work in Guatemala that the church does.
Yep. And the Cafe Cubano.
Yeah.
Emiliano. I remember that because I worked on that.
We got some free food from them, which Steve took home.
There was so many. The aloe people, the smoothie, Turkish handbags and the Turkish towels and all of this stuff. There was just so much.
Yeah, and
so much stuff.
And we appreciate that they support the
Love
show.
muffins. We ate some of those.
I hadn't had a muffin, and I don't know how long, but I ate one of those chocolate chip muffins.
Chocolate chip.
Chocolate. Chocolate chip.
Yeah.
Muffins.
Because there's regular chocolate chip, and
Gotcha.
then there's chocolate chip.
All right, folks, enough about us.
And all of our eating.
At 9:30, we're going to talk to Hans, who is an engineer, and we're going to talk about beach nourishment because that's a big story going on here. The town is getting ready to embark in what could be a $23 million beach renourishment project. And there's a lot to talk about as far as that goes. And then Jackie is going to join us. She's hobnobbing with some of the customers here because she's good at that. She's the president of the Fort Myers Beach Chamber of Commerce.
Yep.
Which we are a proud member of now going on 3 years.
And yesterday, after the Beach Baptist Farmers Market, my mom and I took a little trip right down the street and visited the Mound House for her first time.
You'll have to save that story.
So now we're members. Well, I am a member there.
I'm barred from the Mound House. I didn't do anything wrong, but that's according to the town manager. I'm not barred from the Mound House, but we can't have anyone from the Mound House on. But that's a whole nother story. We're going to talk about the vendors, the jet ski vendors story going on at the end of the show at 10 o'clock once our guests are on. But right now, we're going to introduce our first guest. We're going to have to break away from the crowd that she's chatting with. Ladies and gentlemen, for those of you that are new to the show, we are going to start this show off with some history. Jackie Lisac.
Yay, good morning, everybody.
From the Fort Myers Beach Chamber of Commerce, not only from the chamber, she is the president of the chamber. How many years now, Jackie?
This is 6 years. Can you
6
believe that?
years.
I'm
Wow.
like shocked that
Now,
just happened.
I am going to pop this picture up so people can see it. I don't know if you saw it last night as I put it up there to promote the show.
Oh, I didn't. I heard about it, though.
That is Jackie from, what year now? I'm trying to count backwards because it was the first year.
2018,
coming up on 4 years.
19?
And that is the first guest of the first attempt to ever do a show.
I don't even think we had video.
Look at that.
We were trying to remember how we got hooked up with each other.
I'm going to tell the brief story about this.
Okay.
So
I couldn't remember.
I'm going to try and keep it brief.
remembers.
Before we talk, Jackie's here to talk about Taste of the Beach, but so that right there is an interview into a tape recorder. Not even there's no Facebook. It was audio only.
Yep.
That you can see there's no mic flags, there's no shirts, there's no branding. I don't even know what the hat is. It's certainly not one of these hats because we didn't have them.
What's on my ear? What is this?
I don't know.
Sunglasses, maybe?
Maybe your
What's that?
sunglasses. I don't know.
I can't really. Oh, it's the back. I'm like kind of faced away from
Yeah.
the camera a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was the first interview ever. And I think what happened too was the tape recorder fell off the table while it was recording. And then I had to call you like back the next week to come back and do it over.
He was horrified.
And so
he was horrified that he had to call me back
because we didn't know each other at the time.
Yeah. Like this is such a well-oiled outfit, and now they can't even get it right.
The best laid plans, right?
No, that's for sure.
Real quick, how the whole thing started, and we could do a whole show on the history of how it started and where we're inside and the whole thing, was that I was sitting there with Mean Gene, who's now passed away.
I was just thinking about him the other day. Yeah, having some nice fond memories.
And he was there. He sat at table 23 so long that people would come by and call him the mayor, and they knew him, and he had stories back when his wife was alive, and he fought in Korea. And everybody would stop by and see him every single weekend. Yep. And I said to Gene, you need to really be telling these stories. I need to record them. I need to record them.
Yeah.
So I start recording them, but he'd be 3-4 beers into the breakfast, and so he'd start telling a story, and it wouldn't make any sense, or he'd tell the same story over, which was great. It was great. Yeah. So I thought, well, if I could do it with him, maybe I should try and do this because this beach looks pretty cool.
Yeah.
And so
we are
obviously
cool.
The first person you call is the president of the Chamber of Commerce, and that's who I called.
Okay,
and you came down, which was the coolest thing. You came down like, this sounds like something that might, if you didn't show up, we wouldn't even be here right now. I say that tell people that all the time about that's how the show started.
You get the credit or you get the blame.
The blame. Okay, yes. Well, I that's what happens in the words of my good friend Fran
the heavy
Myers.
crown.
When you walk down the middle, you get hit on both sides.
Nice.
So
boy,
I'm used
getting
to that.
I'm
put
sure-
on a T-shirt.
I'm sure there's a lot of
That's
history to
great.
that saying for
That's-
you
that's-
too, by
yeah.
the way. But if it wasn't
That's
for
a good
that,
one.
and then John Lalo saying you guys might be onto something there,
Of
and then
course.
it was Kevin Ruane would come
Yeah,
down quite
yeah.
regularly before he became a big deal at the county, and Ray Murphy and
Anita.
Anita
That's
would
correct.
come down. And anyway, enough about us. So.
Yeah.
Jackie, tonight you're going to be at the Lovers Key event.
Yeah, the folks down at Lovers Key have put together
The folks
quite
of folks.
the event this evening.
Uh-huh.
I saw pictures of the tent yesterday. The tent is absolutely massive and
No
has
kidding.
like a glass top on it, so you can
Wow.
see through it to the stars.
Wow.
Nice.
I'm wow. It's being catered by Black Salt, which everyone knows that is the premier caterer in Southwest Florida. I hear they do a
Salt.
beautiful job,
So
and it's
dumb question.
shaping up to be a good night.
where are they putting the tent? Like,
I believe it's right in front of the Visitor and Discovery Center in the parking
Okay.
lot. I haven't been out to see it
gotcha.
yet,
cool.
but it's going to be kind of out in that area there. And it's a big shindig. These are, the tickets are pricey, but it is their fundraiser, and it's
Sure.
their push to kind of get the rest of the building put together with their exhibits and everything. I believe all the exhibits are in now,
Okay.
but they still have some more
Work
things
to
that
do.
they want to add to kind of complete the whole program.
Yeah,
if you
I-
haven't been out there, you got to go.
I
Well,
went
we're
a
going
couple.
tonight.
I
Yeah.
went a little. I guess it was last year or the year before to see the Discovery Center and to see. It was in the summer too to see this kids camp and what they had in that area for the kids area. There's
It's
a
amazing.
big room
Yeah.
with all this amazing
Yeah,
stuff.
with touch tanks and
Yep.
all of that, and so
Yep.
the kids can get their hands like literally down into
Mhm.
all of the animals and the plants and stuff like that. It's really cool. It's really cool.
So the Taste of the Beach too
Yes, sir.
is coming up on May.
May the 1st,
First
Sunday,
is
May
a
the
Sunday,
1st.
May
Yep,
the
it's always
1st.
the first Sunday in May.
Tell
Yeah.
us about what the
And
plans are.
we're very excited. It's shaping up to be a really great event. It's going to be over at Salty Sam's Marina in front of the Shrimp Dock Bar and Grill in their parking lot.
Same as last year.
Same as last year. That's
Mhm.
correct. We're expecting probably at least 20 food vendors, and we're expecting probably 40, maybe a little bit more merchandise, information, nonprofit type vendors.
Is that normal
So,
or more than usual?
I think it's going to be more than
Cool.
usual. Yeah. So I'm pretty excited. We're going to have live music all day. We, of course, do have a judging competition, so the restaurants can choose to participate in the food competition if they would like. So it's the best seafood, the best chicken dish, the best like a surf, turf, and chicken, and then a vegetarian. We had added that
Oh,
last
I
year
do
because
like
there's a
that.
lot of folks who
Yep.
prefer to have that.
Yep.
And of course, best appetizer and best dessert. So
Do you have you picked your
Well,
judges?
let me just say that
Go ahead.
you mentioned about you think you're going to have more. I was going to say everything is more this
Yeah,
year.
Yeah,
The
true.
people have been talking about
True.
more.
Yeah.
Just people have such a desire
Yeah.
to get out
And
as
do
a
things,
rebound
and do
yes,
things. Yeah.
yes.
And this
So,
is an outdoor event, so
yes.
it's usually a beautiful day.
Oh, yeah. Last year was
you're right on the
crazy.
water there. It's a gorgeous setting. And don't forget we have the server competition. So
I
all the
was just gonna
restaurants need
ask
to
that
put
was
their
right in front of
servers
us last
Yeah.
year.
Yeah, that's great fun where we
Going up the stairs.
they have to
and-
do an obstacle course carrying
Uh-huh.
a tray with glasses, and then all the bystanders are given squirt guns and silly
Oh,
string.
yeah, that's right.
That's
That's
right.
right.
Yep.
yeah.
So they have to navigate the course
Sounded-
through there. And
Sounded a little dangerous before I saw it, but it really
yes,
wasn't. It really
it's
wasn't.
Not. It's really silly and fun, and the servers really have a great time with that because it's a little bit of competitive spirit.
Yeah.
Right.
A lot of them all know each other because they've
Right.
been on the beach or worked different restaurants. So it really gets to be fun.
Now,
So,
did you pick the judges yet?
we have quite a few judges. We're still waiting to hear who else is going to be coming in. Of course, we don't release who they are.
Oh, you don't.
We do not.
It's a super secret.
It's a big
judging.
super secret.
Well-
They are VIP judges.
Is Ray Sandelli going to be one this year? Can you say yes or no on that?
I
Because
don't.
that would be a draw.
recall.
He would be a draw.
Yeah, well,
Mhm.
everybody loves Ray,
Yeah.
of course.
I thought
Such
I
a
saw
nice
him
guy.
on the Margaritaville float last
I
weekend.
believe that he was on the float.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes, I believe
Did
he
he
was
hurt
asked.
his back or something?
No, I don't think so. I think that it was a long walk
Oh,
coming
I
back.
see. I see.
Mhm. Yep.
So, how about that event?
Yes.
The last two
oh,
parades.
Wow, our island was out in full force, wasn't it? I just was thrilled to see people smiling and laughing and families
Yeah.
together and big kids, little kids, kids of all ages, and Everybody was having a good time. Everybody was on their best behavior. We had no major issues.
Right.
I just was absolutely thrilled to see our island alive.
There was that little weird weather event
Well,
that
you
went
know,
on.
we gotta have something to talk about, don't we?
I
It wouldn't
happened to
Fort
be
Myers
out there. I
Beach.
was like, I think that's a water spout, but I
And
had
you
never
ran-
seen
It was,
that
and it
But you
did
before.
come
ran,
on.
you ran back inside before it actually seemed
Yeah.
like it lifted somebody up. And
Man,
It
toss
came,
them in.
it
That
came on
was
shore
something.
between the cottage and the Lonnie Pie.
that was
Yeah,
something.
right up the middle there. No
Well,
one was
nobody got
injured.
hurt, yeah.
Nobody
Yeah,
was injured. You know, nothing really was
it
damaged.
made all the news. It
But
was
it-
like
yeah.
major
But
news.
it was nature, and
Right.
certainly
And
kind of
shrimp.
added some excitement to the weekend. But right after that, people came back out.
Oh yeah.
I
No,
mean,
it's
people
fine.
I talked
Yeah.
to the Lions, and they said, yeah, it was
Mhm.
rained a little bit of wind, and then people came back out and they were stuffing
no.
their face with shrimp again.
And then
so,
on Sunday they had
Oh, it
that.
was
We
packed.
watched the
Yeah.
contest. I was like, oh my
the
goodness.
shrimp eating
yeah,
contest.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
one of our firefighters, I think it was Joel Martinez.
Yeah.
Three-time
Great
defending
congratulations
champion.
to
Wow.
Joel again. Yes, that was.
Why are you wearing a sweatshirt?
He was a
It
machine.
was chilly this morning.
Did you watch that?
Yeah.
I mean, he was
we broadcast it live. It was
he-
crazy.
well,
yeah,
but
I was
we
at the
weren't
bottom
there.
of the
No,
stairs.
Steve.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
it
Our
was.
roving
I
reporter.
I'm like, oh my gosh! And of course, they have standby behind them because they're eating those shrimp really fast. And
What do you mean? They stand by
the,
in case
like
they
the
throw up?
the couple of the fire department folks were behind him in case somebody
Oh, I
choked on the
see, I
shrimp.
see. Well, they don't have any bones. The shrimp doesn't
It's
have
like-
bones in it, do
Well,
they?
but
No,
still,
but
when you're putting that much
putting
food
that
in your
much shrimp, I
mouth,
mean, he ate how
it's-
many pounds? It was like 3 pounds or something.
That's why I
It
think
was-
chicken wing eating contests are a bad idea.
I think it's a
Yeah.
terrible idea.
Yeah.
It's a terrible idea. So
So
are hot dogs, but
I don't know if I told. I'm not going to tell this story. Like
No.
it was a water drinking story.
No,
They did.
don't
Remember
tell
that
that
one?
one.
That was crazy.
don't even.
So it wasn't around here though.
yeah,
Okay,
So
good news.
the thing that I wanted to mention about the parades and stuff, I'm drawing a
I
total
could
blank.
tell
Oh,
when you're trying to.
I don't even
Phil.
remember what I was going to say now about
Well,
the
they
parades.
were both great
Yeah.
parades, great
Yeah.
days, excellent organization. Everybody had a wonderful time. The St. Patty's Day parade, the same.
That
You know what
looked
I love?
huge.
That looked
It
bigger.
is huge, and I
yeah.
love that we have one on the south end, one on the
Nice.
north end.
Yeah.
True.
It brings out different crowds.
Mhm.
Everybody was super excited. And then, of course, the end of the day ended up down at Nervous Nelly's with the Dweebs concert.
Right.
And that was epic,
Yeah,
apparently. So,
And for
You know.
just to clear things up about that, what happened with the stage? The sheriff didn't shut them down. The town didn't shut them down. Tyler saw what was happening
it was the dock,
the
not
dock.
the stage. The
right,
dock,
sorry,
yeah,
to the
yeah,
dock.
Yeah.
And he said, hold it. I need to stop this. And that's what he
Gotcha.
did. He said something. He saw it bowing.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, obviously, everyone's seen the pictures of how many people were out there. And
Oh,
he
yeah.
asked the band to say, everybody get off the stage. And nobody got injured or anything. Nobody wound
Yeah.
up, which obviously that would have been a huge
Yeah, no, they
catastrophe.
understood.
And,
They
they're
totally
already
understood.
fixed.
Yeah,
He fixed it, and they're getting them replaced in April, is
Mhm.
what I think he told
yeah.
told us. But I mean, you could just tell people wanted to be out
People were like,
partying.
yeah,
Mhm.
oh yeah.
Mhm.
Well, it's the Dweebs too. They do a great show. They're super fun. It's a family. They, they travel all over. They have a loyal
it's
following.
St. Patrick's
It's St.
Day.
Patrick's Day.
Yeah.
It's kind of jump around music and
And
makes
the-
everybody in a good
And the
mood.
Dweebs are regular performers on St. Patrick's Day at
yep.
Nervous Nelly's.
Absolutely.
They were playing in some RV park in a different part of Florida that we saw. Did you see the video?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Did you see
Yeah.
Deputy Dan up there with his? He was in there doing the
Oh.
He was doing the tambourine. Whatever.
Oh,
I'll
is
tell
he?
you what, he plays a mean tambourine.
Does he?
That's
Does it
A
really?
man of many talents.
Does it really?
yes.
Does it really take a lot of talent to have a few drinks and get up on stage
I
and play
mean,
the
he had
tambourine?
it up
Well,
on his
There's
chest.
some people
It was
that I would
all
say
like,
yes, it
whoa.
does.
How do you
Because-
know? Wait, how do you say? Wait a second, that guy doesn't know how he doesn't know what he's doing with the tambourine. I mean, how do you know? He couldn't even hear him.
Hey.
I think he was just up there. The guy looks
fake
great
it till
though.
you make it.
The guy
No,
looks great
fake
though. He
it till you
lost
make
30
it.
pounds. He
Yes.
looks awesome.
Yeah.
So
great.
isn't it funny though? He retired from the sheriff's department and
Yeah.
then he lost 30
Well, that's what
pounds.
retiring will do for you.
All right, I
Yeah,
got you.
It
I
makes
see.
you happy.
Yeah. I guess that kind of job would stress you out.
Eating your stress away.
Yeah, right. Exactly. And we
So-
know what that's like.
Enough about the dweebs. What else is coming up? Oh, first I wanted to ask you
Well,
about.
I just would say you again, post pandemic,
Yeah.
it must be
We are
like packed with events.
we are firing on all cylinders here. Yeah, everything, the whole town. There is no availability. None. As a matter of fact, I saw an article this morning that TDC is reporting a record-breaking year over 2019 numbers. I think Bill from Pink Shell was quoted in there as being 12% over his 2019 numbers at this
Wow.
point. And
That's
2019
great.
was our best year ever.
You
So
know, the funny part about,
good news.
I hope the rates are high. I hope everybody's
Yeah.
making money. I hope
Yep.
they're tipping everybody well for those years that they
Yes.
weren't making money.
Yes.
You know, for everybody that says, you know, the $40 lot here or a $30 lot here, those people
Yeah.
that are visiting, they'll pay $50 if they
Sure.
can walk across the street.
Sure.
That's what's,
Yeah.
I mean, that
We're
unfortunately,
where it's at.
yeah, the
We're
locals
in the top 10. Lee County was the top 10
saw that.
Yeah.
most growing county in the United States.
Yeah, I mean, with an open state and the governor that we have, and it being open for long, you can see that the housing
Yep.
in the county
Oof.
and the apartments in the county, unfortunately, the low income folks it seem like they're getting priced out of everything. And I know the
Even
town
the
is
medium
even
income
trying-
people.
yeah.
Yeah, it's tough.
I mean,
it's
Tough. There's
tough.
a lot of discussion going on. I was actually at the post legislative delegation luncheon this week with the Chamber of Southwest Florida. And we got a chance to listen to all of our legislators talk about what they did in session and things that got through and things that didn't, things they're going to commit to working on next year. And one question that came up was, why did our legislator not deal with or really address the housing, the attainable, affordable housing issue? And they all committed that this is going to be something that they're going to focus on next session. Of course, a lot of them are up for election, or
Of
re-election.
course.
So, I'm sure that they'll be speaking about that as they come around, but make sure you ask them those questions and make sure you let them know that this is important to us, because this is not a problem just in Fort Myers Beach.
No.
I think I told you I was out in Colorado Springs this past summer, and most of the surveying folks, the working folks, cannot live in the town anymore. They have to go out. Well, lucky for them, they got land all around, right? We don't.
Right.
So there's only one way to go, and we've got to find some creative solutions.
I wonder now that mooring field is not going to go behind Town Hall, if that's a spot. I mean, the town owns $1 million worth of property.
Yeah,
Is it partially residential? Could they put low income housing there for the employees? I mean, I don't know. I might be talking out the side of my mouth
if
there.
If we don't, keep throwing out ideas and see what sticks, and you don't know.
Where else can you? What else do you have? It's not like you can add land onto the island here. And it's really
you can't really go up, and there's no place to go out.
Well, and the folks, I think, on that canal, they have very strong feelings about what they want to see or not see back there.
For sure.
And thankfully, town council listened to them at council meeting and took their concerns under consideration. But things like these are good ideas, and I think they need to get thrown around and vetted, because hey, what if you could put something back there that is attainable housing that could house some of the folks on the island?
Speaking of events, yesterday, or was it yesterday? Yeah, yesterday they had the
I don't know what you're talking about. So
the event for the mooring field folks down. What was it?
Great things.
I forgot the name of
Cruisers
the event.
Appreciation
the Cruisers
Day.
Appreciation event was but where that pier is being closed off, and that parking lot there, and everybody from the mooring field came down, and Steve sat down with people that were from the mooring field and asked them how they like the Harbor House. They love.
That's what I was hearing that all day yesterday. I was hearing it was a great event.
So my point is, my question is, why is the town pursuing? You don't have to answer this, obviously.
I don't have an answer.
I mean, if they love the Harbor House,
if I did, I'm not going to give it.
and they love the fact that it's so close to the water, and they can walk to Nervous Nellie's or Snug Harbor or Times Square, and they absolutely love the Harbor House. So if it's working at the Harbor House and everybody's happy, why don't they just try and figure out a long-term solution at the Harbor House? Folks seem to be the ones that reached out to the town. Anyway, everybody had a great time. There was a couple hundred people there yesterday.
Really nice things. I heard about nice families that are out on the boats out there. And, the fact of the matter is, a lot of those boats, you go over the bridge, you look at them, those are expensive boats out there. Those are not, those aren't dinghies. And if you're on a ball paying per night charges, that's not cheap either. So I think we're going to see more of this coming. We've had mega yachts in harbor.
Really?
We've had 2 big mega yachts come in and out of our harbor.
They're not hanging on a ball, though. Oh, okay.
They were there for weeks.
Yeah.
No kidding.
They have to stay in the front.
The secret's out.
Yeah.
I mean, we are a great place to be. People want to come here. People love our island. They love our funky vibe. They love what we have to offer. The town is putting money into all of our, facilities to update and upgrade them. And that shows. The county, the road is down. The county is working on, base of the bridge plans, all of that. We are definitely an island in transition. I know Jim Adderholt uses the Renaissance word a lot, and it's definitely true. It's interesting to see who's coming now and who's visiting, and people who are investing in our island, and a lot of folks our age who may still be working but buying here and planning on moving permanently. I hear a lot of that
What do you think Margaritaville, when it opens, is going to do to Fort Myers Beach, or I should say?
I've been a believer in a rising tide lifts all boats. I've believed that long before I knew Margaritaville was coming. I think that when you improve an area, all of the surrounding businesses get a bump from that.
Right.
And I think it just happens to be at the same time when the world is changing as well, right? Work patterns are changing. People are working out of their homes. They're able to buy a nicer house, stay home. They're not commuting. They're not traveling. And I think all of this is kind of coming together, with our real estate prices on the island. It's kind of like a perfect storm, so to speak. But I think it's going to improve the island as a whole.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're going to bring more people down here, and those people aren't just going to stay there. They're going to go out.
Gonna spread out.
They're going to spread out. They're going to want to see what else the town has and what other things there are to do. So
they're going to come with a couple, and then next time they're going to bring their whole family. They might want a home to rent. They might want more of a boutique Airbnb type feel, or something on the Back Bay, or guess what? They might fall in love with our island and I don't know, buy a house.
That Back Bay is beautiful.
Yeah.
From being at the
I think I got eaten
yesterday.
alive when Larry Abramoff took me on that tour of the Back Bay there. Wow. He's like, you need to put bug spray on it.
Well, you needed to go and get some no-seam spray.
Yep.
That's exactly what I got bitten up by.
So, I do want to give a quick plug to, you mentioned events. So we do also have our golf tournament coming up, which is June the 3rd.
Where?
The Chambers Golf Tournament we held at the Dunes out on Sanibel.
Nice.
By the way, speaking of your events, you had the annual Gala for the Chamber at Cape Coral. That was awesome. We were there.
We had
that was so
time.
much fun. That was a great evening. We did our annual awards. We did our installation of our new board.
Right.
Our recognition of our past or previous board and ambassadors, and then a delicious dinner by the Cape Cabaret. They do a great job out there, by the way.
The desserts were really
dessert
good
was
too.
Delicious, and
I was out of my funny money in
it was a casino night, right?
Yes.
Yeah, everybody loved that so much. I think
fun.
that might be an annual event. Might get to be an annual event.
So you have the Taste of the Beach is in May, and then the golf tournament after that.
Yep.
And
in
then
June.
Then we're gonna slide a little into summer, and we're hoping the bowling alley is gonna open back up, and we can do our bowling bash again.
All right, wait a second now. You're going too fast for people that don't know.
I know.
You're talking about the Beach Bowl.
Beach Bowl. God, I hope.
Are you sure that's going to be a bowling alley?
I don't know. I'm
I
trying
heard
to
it's going
find
to be
out.
a Beef O'Brady's.
I know it's a Beef O'Brady's. That's what I'm hearing.
But with bowling.
Wouldn't that be amazing?
It would be. It's a perfect spot for it.
Got my fingers crossed.
Yeah.
I know.
So there's an election coming up. I mean, what are you have any thoughts on? Obviously, Ray is going to run, and he's going to win.
That's what I'm hearing.
And anybody else that you have in mind?
I have not heard of anybody. Honestly, I mean, I have not heard anybody that
neither we.
No.
A lot of names being thrown around, and I think a lot of people are thinking about it. The reality is, it's even though it is essentially a volunteer job, they give you a teeny little bit of pay. It's a full-time job, and it's a big responsibility.
For sure.
I'm thankful for all the people that choose to do that job, because they're doing it because they love our island and they want to make a difference and they want to serve. And whether you agree with someone or don't, they want to serve, and they're serving our island. They're taking their free time and their talent and their energy to do so. And I believe that deserves respect, and it deserves appreciation.
I mean that it's not only the commitment of time.
Oh my
but
goodness, right?
It's you have to have a pretty thick skin.
Yeah, you get beat up, and you're just doing what you think is best. And listen, I don't always agree with everybody and the choices they make, but I respect that they made those choices and they did it in the best way, with the best intentions, right? Because of what they see or believe or feel, or who they are and their life history, etc. And
Jackie,
I think if somebody gets mad at one of those folks that's up there and doesn't like what th're doing, then stop talking and you go run for it.
Do you think
put your money where your mouth is?
Well, and I think that it's always good to have debate, but you just have to maintain a certain decorum and civility when you're doing it. And I understand that people because I get passionate about things, and you have to sometimes.
Like what?
So do I. I had to get talked off the wall yesterday. So
what happened?
Wait, what? Wait, what happened? I missed that. What'd you say?
I get talked off the wall once in a while. I get frustrated with
fired
stuff,
up,
and I'm passionate about it, and I care about it. And,
so
it happens.
With the way the island's growing, do you think 5 council members is enough, or should it be 7?
Ooh, that's a great question. I've never been asked that before.
That is a
very good question.
It was a
And
genuine
should the mayor be elected and not appointed
and
by?
that is another excellent question.
I'll
Actually,
leave that
question was debated at the legislative delegate luncheon because of the superintendent position.
Yeah, talking
because
about that
one of
too.
our delegates got something put on the ballot asking us as Lee County residents, should we elect our superintendent of Lee County Schools, or should that person be appointed by the Lee County School Board? And the last time that question was put on our ballot was 1974.
Oh, wow.
And then she looked out at the 400 people that were there for lunch, and she said, who here voted in 1974? Not one hand went up in the room. She's like, I felt it was time to ask the question again.
Yeah.
So what would it take for that question of 7 people to get on the ballot or to vote for the mayor? What would it take? Would it take a
I believe
referendum?
you would have to have a petition. I could be wrong, so don't skin me on this.
Right.
Folks.
Just thinking out
but I
loud
believe
here.
a petition with a question on it, and you have to have so many registered voters that sign it, and it has to go down to Lee County elections. I believe that's how that works.
For
I could
a
be wrong. If
referendum.
somebody knows any better, please, speak up.
Chime in.
Do you think
And
7's
then it would
better?
be put on the ballot. I have to think about that.
Because
I don't know.
then you don't have a 3-person majority that can really move. Right now, there's kind of a 3-person majority.
3 beats 2. I mean, always.
When you have 7, you really it's
well, guess
it's
what?
more than 5.
Well, that's true. 5
Or
beats
is it-
2,
or is-
4
or is-
beats 3. I mean,
4 beats 3. Right.
or is that making government too big?
Wow. Could you find 7 people who want to go up
Well,
there and
that
get
was
beat
my
up?
question.
I think with the way the island's growing, there are enough names that are that you hear in the underground, like
it's-
Steve Johnson and Karen Woodson and
Mhm.
Patrick Romko, and
Yep.
there's I think Dawn will eventually run, and
Yeah.
there's other people that
Well, it's time commitment too. A lot of our folks, they leave for the summer, they travel,
Right.
they go see grandkids up north,
they
or
need to cut that crap
homes.
out. Stay here and get things done, man.
You're so funny to me.
when the foot of the bridge is done and Times
Mhm.
Square is redone and
Yeah.
Bayside Park is open and Wahoo Willie's is open and obviously Margaritaville is open.
Yeah.
Let's say it's 5 years from now, 4 years from now, it's going to be
Imagine.
so crazy different, and
Yeah.
there's still not going to be anywhere to park.
Well, yeah. Well, we are a 7-mile barrier island.
Hey,
I mean,
get here early.
there's only so much dirt here, and it's parceled out as to what you can do where.
Get
And
here early. Be patient.
I
ride your
heard
bike,
I
take
tell
the
people all the time, I
trolley.
say come early and have breakfast. We
Yeah.
got great restaurants
Oh,
like
for
Pete's
sure.
down
Or
here,
park
and
and take the
block
trolley
next door, they
over.
got great restaurant. Come down and have breakfast.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it. Take your time.
Anita says you have to amend the charter, so
Ah,
probably
okay.
a referendum
So
to do that.
I assume it would start with a petition of some
Yeah.
kind.
So I heard the mayor say during which was a perspective I had never heard. You don't want parking garages on the island because then people still have to get over to the island and use the
And
parking
use the
garage, which I
parking,
thought was an
That's-
interesting
that's
way of looking at
actually a
things.
very
You
good
really
point,
want
yeah.
people
On
parking
that side.
wanna park that
somewhere
way
and then get them
and
here.
then
The thing is
transfer
that
'em in.
people are somewhat lazy and they want to be
Mhm.
close to their cars.
Well,
They
and
don't
if you're
wanna have
schlepping
to-
all your beach. I
That's it,
mean,
that's
if you're
it, yeah.
schlepping a lot of beach stuff,
Yeah.
that makes it.
What's
but-
the right answer, Jackie?
I just had somebody tell me yesterday, I had to work in the Sea Gypsy gift shop yesterday because, I had many hats on yesterday at one time. And I had a guest come in and tell me that they stay on the north end of the island and they call the water taxi to go back and forth.
Yeah.
Okay, I've heard people mentioning the water
Yeah.
taxi. I didn't even know it existed.
Yeah, his name is Captain Butch. He runs a water taxi. I believe he can pick you up and drop you off. He goes all over the back bay. But if there were more of that type of
Mhm.
transportation,
Yep.
How
I
about
could
that
see-
for an entrepreneur?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Right there.
I could
That's
see
a
a
money
need
maker.
for that.
Yeah.
Because that's
Or
back and
sell
forth,
some
back and forth.
floaties, and you can.
And they
just-
said
where
they
are they
love
parking?
it. They have a little cocktail. They
Where are they
Captain
parking?
Butch.
Where are they
No,
parking?
they're staying
They
on
li-
the
they
north
live
end.
there.
Well, where were they? Like,
And
how
then
could you get the?
he goes over. He takes them over to like Bonita Bill's or over to
You're
to
looking
Salty
at me
Sam's,
funny, like
and then
I'm
they
trying
go
to figure
dinner
out.
And they go listen to entertainment music, and they call him, and he comes
Right.
back and gets them.
So the ideal situation is for there to be a parking garage over there with constantly moving water taxis,
wouldn't that
because
be nice?
it's like
Well,
a Disney thing. It'd be
or
like a Disney
trams,
thing.
Yeah.
and I mean, you could have a couple of different.
Trams over
Put
the
the
top
tram
there.
over.
Just
Yeah.
toss them
I
out.
had
Over the
somebody say,
bridge.
What
Shoots
about
on.
sky trams? Wouldn't that be fun?
It would
We
be
had
fun.
like a
Those
gondola that came
walking,
over.
those walking
A
things.
gondola. Can you imagine?
Gondola.
A gondola.
You get
All right.
You get a ride and transportation.
Ah.
you know?
Jackie, we're out of time,
All
and
right.
you're the best. And so,
Aw,
one
thanks,
more
guys.
time, Taste of the Beach.
Taste of the Beach. It is Sunday, May the 1st, 11 till 4. Come on out. $5 suggested donation at the door. Food tickets are $1. And we're going to have all kinds of food. Really that used to be the end of our season and at time when all the restaurants could celebrate and all the
they're going to
folks
stay
in the restaurants
busy.
take a big breath and they're like, woohoo. I don't know if it's happening
No,
this
they
year,
can take a bit. They better take an even bigger breath because they're going to be busy.
Fun, and we will be looking for volunteers too. So you get some free tickets if you help out as a volunteer. And as always, the chamber's open for fun and information. Come on down and say hi.
Ladies and gentlemen, your president of your Chamber of Commerce, Jackie Lisac. 6 years now. Holy moly.
Guys.
Thank you to Jackie. All right, everybody, before we get to our next guest, I'm going to tell you about Island Carts FMB. If you're tired of wasting money on gas and sitting in traffic on Fort Myers Beach or I got the ads. You got she's got one job. Just one job is to transition. Like Linda yesterday had guests in and out every 5 minutes. She's got one job. It's to just transition from one guest to the second guest. Island Carts FMB is a golf company run by local residents, people, the locals. That's what you want. You want locals. Like we're doing a local show. We're locals. You want people that are local that want to take care of you. And that's Island Carts FMB. You know, you can get a nice brand new golf cart. They have Wi-Fi. They have these batteries that last 16 years in them. You're never going to get out to your location and then all of a sudden, oh no, my battery died. It's going to be a battery that lasts forever and ever and ever. You need to check them out online at islandcartsfmb.com or call them to reserve your cart today at 844-FMB-CART. That's 844-362-2278 for those of you that don't have letters on your phone and can figure out the numbers. It's 844-362-2278.
Okay.
What's the problem?
The whole letters on your phone thing.
I just don't think phones are made with letters on them anymore.
We went through this, and yes, they still have them on. We went through this.
Did we go through
already.
my phone? Does your phone have letters on it? Oh, they do?
All do.
Well, he's an engineer. He would know.
See?
Oh, there you are.
Now, he asked a great question just as he sat down.
Great question for Hans.
Which was, go ask him the question.
Nice and close.
Well, I was scoping out the scene here and noticed the chalkboard behind me, and I was wondering why Kim got such small billing compared to your name.
I don't know. The ladies that work here, they are fond of me, so they made the sign. They try and impress me with love and affection.
That's your handwriting.
Every morning. So $10. Yes, $10. We served like 3 shirts. Did you buy a shirt yet or
no?
What?
We're not selling anything.
No, we're not selling anything. We're not allowed to sell. We're inside. We could do things inside. Hans is an engineer. Like you're like one of the smartest people, right? Because engineers are super smart.
No, we're just well educated.
Okay. Is that all right? You got me on that one. You see?
Sometimes so where did you go to school?
I'm a graduate from Florida Atlantic University.
Okay.
I'm an ocean engineer by degree.
Cool.
And I am a licensed professional engineer.
What is an ocean engineer first?
It's sort of like a civil engineer in the water. Nice. We learn about everything that you can possibly imagine in terms of coastal processes and structures and basically anything that you would imagine on land, except it's in the water.
What is the coolest thing you've ever seen in the ocean?
Oh, I've seen many cool things
like
in the ocean.
Pick one that you like, or 3. That people would not know that's in the ocean.
That's rogue waves. I've seen a couple pretty big waves. Rogue waves. I've seen some pretty big waves.
Rogue waves.
Yeah. I've seen a lot of great wildlife.
Like what's
done a lot of underwater work.
Have you ever seen a whale?
Yeah, I have.
What kind of whale?
Oh, it was probably a right whale.
A right whale.
Yep.
Yes.
I've never heard of that.
Yep.
Yes.
Is that like a wrong whale, a right whale, left whale, or
no? It's the name they give for the whales. They're a protected species, and they are around the coast of Florida, mostly on the East Coast.
How deep have you scuba dived? Like how deep in the water have you gone? Or do you go in one of those cool like machines where you're in there?
Like submarines?
Submarine, not a submarine, but one of those glass,
like those glass
enclosed balls.
I have. I've been in a submarine to 1,300 feet, and I've been diving to 130 feet.
You were in a nuclear submarine?
No.
No. How cool is it to be in a submarine? Like,
it's interesting.
Why is it interesting?
Because it's dark.
Really? No lights? You can't put lights on
1,300 feet. You can't see anything unless you have lights. You bring your own lights.
Oh well, don't you have like a light switch or something like?
Well, yeah, and we usually have lights that light up.
Oh, you're saying the
whatever you're
ocean is
looking at.
dark.
I'm
Yeah.
so sorry.
No, so 13. What is at the
I
bottom?
think she needs larger billing on the.
No
No.
kidding.
She didn't even ask any good questions yet.
Well,
she
we
got no
haven't-
bell activity today, Hans.
I'm
No
gonna-
bells.
I'm
You
gonna
got no
ask
bells. You're
the-
bellless.
The pertinent questions. You're asking silly questions.
What's the bell about?
Well, if we tell you now, then you're null and
They-
void
yeah.
for the rest of the show.
Yeah.
We'll tell you
Okay.
after the
We'll
show.
tell you.
Okay, very good.
At the end of the
You'll
show.
get it.
So the 1,300 feet, like, what is at the bottom of the ocean at 1,300 feet?
Well, that's not the bottom.
That's not the bottom?
No.
Oh,
not
I
even
see.
close.
How far is the bottom?
Oh,
I
my
think the
Lord.
Marianas Trench is the deepest part of the ocean in the world, and I can't remember off the top of my head. It's like 9 or 13 miles
Miles.
deep. It's
Wow.
It's incredibly deep.
So
Yeah.
for people in our audience, because our audience is kind of sometimes they're not as smart as you, for sure.
That is
Where
not.
is the Marianas Circle or whatever you said that was?
Marianas Trench, I
Trench.
believe, is in the Pacific Ocean, if I remember correctly.
Well, that's a big ocean, so right. Where's
you know-
it
Well,
close
what do you
by?
want? Longitude and
Give
latitude?
me a landmark, a country.
You're asking me geographic questions about
And he's-
coastal
And you're
locations.
not,
Right,
you're not
right.
a geographic
I haven't,
engineer.
Not
been, I haven't looked at that stuff since I was in college many years ago.
Okay. All right, dear. You have any dumb questions you want to ask?
I have one.
Well, tell us about your business first before we start with the questioning.
Well,
Yeah. What's
I'll just do a general introduction. Okay. So I am a professional engineer. I moved to Captiva Island when I was 9. So I
Cool.
grew up on the West Coast here.
Nice.
I've been to Sanibel Elementary, Cypress Lake
Oh,
High,
cool.
Edison
Nice.
Community College when it was had a real name, not some
Florida
boring
State-
Southwest,
What is it
whatever,
now?
whatever
Florida Southwestern
college.
Oh, that's too long.
Yeah. Well, it's
State College or
It's
something. Yeah.
mundane,
okay.
is what it is.
Gotcha.
And then went to FAU and graduated from there. And I've been in the consulting engineering business since the early 80s.
Sounds like you went to a lot of school.
No, college.
That's
you know,
it.
I have a bachelor's degree in ocean engineering.
Okay.
I was lined up to get into the master's program, and I'd had enough of school. It was
Yeah.
time to go to work.
I had enough of school in 12th grade.
Yeah.
I mean, that was
I'm
enough for me.
surprised you made it out of that.
Who said I did?
So, yeah, I've had a consulting business here, my own business. I started in 2000, and we do marine related. We're marine engineers and environmental consultants. So we consult on coastal processes, coastal projects. We do marina design, dredging projects, shoreline stabilization, dune restoration. So basically, anything has to do with the marine environment, we have an involvement.
So real
So
quick,
can
and
I
then
ask-
yes, you're going to ask all the smart questions.
No, I just
so
want to ask one that's
All right,
not.
go ahead.
So I've done a little bit of research and it seems like it's two terms. There I hear beach nourishment and then beach renourishment. So what is it?
Well, there's
And is there a difference?
yes.
Okay.
First off, there's beach restoration, which means that's a project, a new project that's going in and placing sand for the first time along the coastline.
So the first time you do it,
Is
it's
a
called
restoration.
restoration.
Right.
Okay.
The second time you do it, when it erodes and you go to place fill back to the original design template, that's called renourishment.
Okay.
So you're renourishing or nourishing the beach.
Okay. And so you can use nourishment and renourishment interchangeably.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, basically,
Okay.
they're the same.
big time waster right there.
No, but I
You could have
and
emailed them.
no, but I was
So-
reading something and they said, notice we didn't say renourishment. And I was like, oh, well, then there must be some distinction there. But
Well, this project here is a combination.
Before we jump ahead to that,
Yes.
I have one more question about the water out there. In your opinion, can you catch more fish with a bobber or on the bottom?
With a bobber or a what?
Or on the bottom? With
Depends on what you're fishing for.
I mean, generally, what is your opinion on that with your degree in marineology? and
First off, I'm not a hook and line fisherman.
what does that
Thank you.
mean?
I cast net for fish.
You
I
cast
love
the net
fresh,
out for fish.
I love fresh mullet, best fish in the world.
How many mullet can you catch with a net?
I've caught up to 101 throw.
No way.
Wow.
I mean,
Way.
how you pulling that thing in?
It's hard.
No shit.
It's very hard.
Wow, 100
I
mullet.
actually
Are you
s-
done for the day after that?
Absolutely. But you're friends with everybody in the
No
neighborhood.
kidding. How many mullets, like, how long will 100 mullets last?
You mean to eat?
Yeah. Like if you were to keep them all in your freezer yourself.
Well, first off, you wouldn't want to freeze mullet. Mullet's a
freezing.
fresh fish. It's best when it's fresh.
Oh, so you're eating it and you're selling it. Or
giving it away.
Yeah.
That's usually what happens.
When you catch 100 mullet, are you skinning them right there and filleting them right there and packaging?
Well, no, usually
because we know a guy at the farmer's market.
Well, usually what you do if you catch that many mullet, and that was a while back, you just gut them. You just gut them, and then you ice them. And then whoever gets them,
okay.
Right
when you gut them, do you throw the skin back in the ocean for bait, or?
Well, it depends on how you're cleaning them. But
I see.
No, you wouldn't use the skin for bait. You might use the pieces of mullet for bait.
No, I mean you're just throwing it back in the ocean so other fish can have them.
Yeah, it's biodegradable.
Gotcha. So mullet at 100, like, do you ever spearfish?
All the time when I get a chance.
What do you spearfish? Because I love spearfishing. I mean, I watch it on ESPN. I like the ESPN 9.
My favorite spearfishing, which we don't do it anymore because the dock is missing, but back in the 70s, we used to go up to the phosphate docks in Boca Grande.
No kidding.
And that was back when they were offloading phosphate on the freighters. So we would pull up and we would dive underneath this big, huge pier that had a lot of machinery operating on it. And we usually tried to find...
That doesn't sound so safe.
No kidding. Did you get yourself scanned for phosphate?
We would come up. Well, we would come up and the boat would be covered with phosphate. So I'm sure there's some radioactivity or something.
No shit, man.
Went into.
Why aren't you wearing a mask?
Some byproduct, you know. But the fun part was it was dark, and we would go down and we would sort our way through the big tarpon passing through, and we try to spear a 20 or 30 pound grouper if we could find one.
Are you so you're standing in the water with a spear, spear gun, or like a spear?
You're swimming with a band gun.
No, I don't. I've never spearfished before, so I'm picturing you're standing in the water with a loincloth on and you got a spear in your hand.
No, it's much more sophisticated than that.
But that's the way they used to do it in the old days.
Not so sophisticated.
It's okay.
So what's the biggest fish you ever caught?
Oh my!
Are we going to talk about the beach? Or, I mean, this is more fun though, honestly. I mean, what's the biggest fish you ever caught? And is it hanging on your wall?
Pacific sailfish.
Of course. I love the sailfish. Like, how big was it? How many poundages?
Probably 7 foot, probably...
A 7-foot fish.
Probably 180 pounds.
How long did it take you to reel that sucker in?
Took a while.
Hour, 2 hours?
Yeah, about an hour maybe.
Wow. So you must have been
Were you sitting in one of those chairs?
Oh, yeah, fighting chair, the whole deal.
Oh, yeah,
with
the
seatbelt
in? Oh, that's what ladies do, like her. She does that.
Please.
Would you be strapped in if you did?
So he goes out on a boat, and then 2 seconds later, he's throwing up, and he's out.
She takes the Dramamine and doesn't tell me.
I don't take the Dramamine.
You lie.
I don't need it.
So let's talk about the beach. Enough about fishing, Hans.
Yes. Please.
Sorry. I mean, dear, when you have an interesting guest and he has a multitude of backgrounds and things, you have to
have an entire day to spend with.
He's going fishing today.
Wow.
No, what are you doing? Going to the office today?
To visit my daughter.
Oh, what does she do?
She runs 5 different marinas.
Wow.
It's in the family.
I see. So she's probably a college graduate and she has a big master's degree.
No, she just has a regular degree.
I see. I wasn't a fan of college, man, but the drinking was fun. Did you drink a lot in college?
No, because in order to get through the ocean engineering program, you had to be pretty damn straight.
For sure, yeah.
It wasn't easy for dumbasses like me.
I don't think you're a dumbass. Did you say dumbass?
I can't say that, can I?
You can.
No, you can.
We're not regulated by anybody.
We're not regulated by
You just can't sing a song because then we'll get in trouble.
We're only regulated by Roger. That's it. But that's another story.
But needless to say, getting through college was not the party in the engineering program like most people think.
You don't have to answer this, but sometimes some people in our audience want to know what our guests have these highfalutin. Not yours isn't a highfalutin, but it's an important job. Like it's a job that most of our audience could never get. Does this pay well? I mean, is it a high-paying job?
You mean as a professional engineer?
Yeah.
Was
it worth all those years of you paid back your college loans and all that, and
Absolutely.
You're good. Yeah, 100 or more.
So you don't have to answer that.
I know.
You don't have to.
I live a comfortable life.
Nice.
Yeah.
I don't drive a fancy car.
Okay. Yeah. What do you drive?
My pickup truck is a 2003 Ford Lightning.
Paid for. Very nice.
Absolutely paid for.
I would say so.
Yeah,
right?
especially these days. I mean, if you were to buy a new car today, what would it be?
Please.
What would you buy a truck? Yeah.
So we're here to talk about
beach
I don't know
renourishment,
now.
Dear.
Forget it.
He's got so many different things and he's fun, dear. He's a fun guest.
So
he's never coming back. I know that.
Yeah, I'm a fun guy.
So the beach is going to get renourished or nourished.
It's
First,
a combination.
That's the plan.
Before,
coming up.
combination.
but what about how it
Nope,
happens? Back up. How does it happen?
I'm going to get to
All right,
that.
go ahead. You want me to take a break?
So in how is it? How is it that erosion occurs?
Well, it's ongoing natural processes of the waves lapping against the land.
Okay.
And
Is that the only thing that causes erosion of a beach?
generally speaking, it's the fluid nature of the water
Okay.
working its way against the relatively stable nature of the sand in the island.
So it doesn't have to do with any human activity or
Well,
development.
boat wakes are a contributing factor to
Okay.
erosion.
Okay.
And there's also changes in the dynamics of the coastline created by man that has an impact on erosion.
And then when we were looking at the project coming up, for people that don't know, there's an erosion control line and then a mean water high tide line.
Yes, that's correct. Would you like me to explain
Yes.
that? Okay.
As if I could get it all out there.
All right. In the state of Florida, if you live along the waterfront, your ownership typically extends to the mean high water line. Okay. And the mean high water line is an actual known elevation that basically separates private ownership from public land.
Okay.
That's why on any shoreline in the state of Florida, you can walk below the mean high water line and you're on public land. Okay, so what's going to happen now is they're going to fill that public land and raise it up out of the water.
Okay.
By extending the beach further out. And so what occurs is they're basically using the mean high water line, which is the separation between private land and public land.
Mm-hmm.
They now establish an erosion control line.
Before you say what that is, how do they determine what the mean is?
Okay. Most people think of the ocean and they think of sea level,
Mm-hmm.
right? Well, sea level is a very generic term. The state and National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration has tide stations that they've established around the area, and they monitor the tides, high tide, low tide, highest tide, lowest tide. And over an annual period, 19-year epoch is typically what we monitor the tide period for. They establish, based on a known datum, it used to be National Geodetic Vertical Datum in 1929. It's now North American Vertical Datum, established in 1988. And they take all this tide information and they bring it back to this known datum that's consistent for all of the tide gauges in the area. And then they say, okay, what's been the average high tide? What's the average low tide?
Mm-hmm.
And they use that information to establish by elevation where the mean high water line is. So when the surveyors go out, they survey the beach and they establish where that elevation is along that shoreline, and that is the elevation that is used.
Do they
to
survey
establish-
every year?
That's one.
It depends on what you're doing. If you've got a beach project and you're monitoring its performance, you usually do annual surveys.
Okay.
But just in general, is it on a yearly basis or a 19-year basis?
Well,
or?
the tide stations are essentially run for a 19-year epoch is with the
Okay.
tidal
What do you mean
cycles.
epic? What do you mean
It's the
epic?
tidal cycles that we go through.
Okay.
It's a little complicated.
how-
but
It's too much for you.
Yeah,
Dan.
thank you. So, how do people know? Is there a place where people can go and say, okay, I can see an overhead look of the mean high tide water line and whatever the hell it's called, and there it is right there. There's the line. It's a red line that somebody has drawn, and now we know what the public land is and what the private land is. Where is that? Where can I go look at that?
you would have to survey it. You would have to go
Oh, is it-
out with a survey.
Well, how does the landowner know where his property is then?
They generally don't
Okay.
until you establish the erosion control line.
Okay.
Or unless they have a survey of their property that shows where the mean high water line elevation is. If they hire a surveyor and the surveyor does what's called a topographic survey where they're shooting elevations on the property, they can shoot the elevation and establish where that mean high water line is.
So, are you saying that it's unknown right now where the mean high tide water line is on Fort Myers Beach?
No, it's known.
It's known.
It's
But you
just
have
not
to-
known by somebody that walks out and looks at the
It's
shoreline.
not like on the It's not
Well,
like
I guess
a
if a
line
homeowner
drawn
comes
there.
out this back door and says, "Hey, you're on my property," the guy walking by is going to say, "Hey, how do you know where your property is?" I mean,
Right.
they don't really know.
That's pretty much correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, there's some signs. I mean, you can plus or minus a couple of feet one way or the other
Right,
based on
right.
what the tides are. So if you go out on a high tide and a normal high tide and you see where the rack line is, which
I
is
see.
all the vegetation
Yeah.
it establishes,
Yeah.
that's probably pretty good, 5 or 10 feet one side or the other to
I see.
approximate the mean high water line. But if you go out on a super high tide like we're going to have today,
We're going to have a high
later
tide
this
today.
afternoon, we'll have a really super high tide. It might be a foot higher
Like,
than the normal
You
mean
knew
high water
that.
line.
You knew that on the top of your head. Like I didn't know that we were going to have a super high tide. Is that because that's your thing, right?
Well, yeah. Well, we're I look at the water all the time.
Right.
It's my love. So
Yeah.
you pay attention to it.
Some people love
Sort of
cheese.
like
my
some
wife,
people love
you know?
water. What?
So now, what's the difference between? Because we kind of got off on that. The difference between that line and the erosion control line.
Well,
They're pretty close.
They're the same.
Okay.
When they survey the mean high water line prior to a beach restoration project, okay, that surveyed location, which is an elevation and it's a horizontal location, is established by record. And then when that beach is filled past that line then is established as the erosion control line and delineates the public area from the private.
And for how long is that good then? 1 year?
Forever.
Unless
okay.
there's
Unless
another
somebody changes
another
it for some
project.
reason.
Okay.
I see. So,
So-
do you go ahead?
No, so they're gonna. So coming up now, when they go to fill in the beach, they're gonna raise it up, and that'll extend the width of the beach.
That's correct.
Okay. So where is the sand coming from?
They have an offshore borrow site.
Okay.
The engineers, which are doing this design, they go out and do vibrocore sampling around the area
Mm-hmm.
to determine what sort of sand source is available that meets the state's criteria for beach restoration project.
Okay.
And before people start worrying about what's going on, the sand that Lee County put at Lynn Park was darker than the regular sand, and they figured that out. They know they made a mistake there, and they've either fixed the sand or they got different sand. It's going to be matching the whites. It's not really white, but the right sand. Did you know that?
Well, the state who regulates the placement of sand on the beach has criteria for the sand type. It has to be a certain granular size, has to be a certain density. It basically has certain criteria to be appropriate for placement on a beach.
Now let me just ask: if they were to do some dredging, and they were to use that sand and put it on, it could be darker, but what I was reading is that then it would bleach out and be the same color.
I think that's what they said. I think that's what
Yeah,
the
So
engineer
that
said.
people shouldn't panic when they see the darker sand, because it's going to bleach out and blend in.
Generally, the sand that they place on the beach is the same type of sand that's on the beach already.
Right.
I
I mean,
think
that would make sense.
It was
You
weird
can't-
to me for people to notice that the sand that the county or the state placed in Lynn Park was different than anything. It was just like, to me, it was just like, wow, this looks great. There's more sand. But then there were people
Well,
like,
you're
it's
just
the
not
wrong
very-
sand.
Right. You're
I
not
mean,
very
That's,
discriminating.
I just thought it was kind of nitpicking. I mean, I was happy there was more sand there. But
So they're going to put, there's pipelines out there.
wait,
There's-
no.
Okay.
So you're jumping ahead now. By the way,
Well,
we gave
you
you a list of
you
questions.
wasted
I
all
don't think
this
we
time.
asked any of them yet.
I did
so.
too.
Getting to them.
Yeah.
Do you know much
did
about
that.
the critical wildlife area? Like, the critical wildlife area apparently has expanded over time and moved, and because of hurricanes and weather events, it's now a gigantic, it's like an island of its own down there, and it's playing a role in the beach renourishment project, in which, when it's determined, what you were talking about before, if it's determined that the homeowners own that land that's in the critical wildlife area, then the town has to pay for the renourishment. If the state owns that land, then the state is 100% going to pay for the renourishment. Are you familiar at all with what's going on down there?
Well, a critical wildlife area is a state designated protection that they place in a location that's critical for wildlife to establish. Basically, nesting shorebirds is what's used principally for, as well as nesting turtles. But the turtles nest all along the coastline.
Right.
This particular location is critical because our shorebirds do not have a lot of coastal places they can go and remain undisturbed. And that's the challenge for the environmental folks that manage the beaches here on Fort Myers Beach, is trying to give those critters some space so they can proliferate and maintain their populations and keep our critters, man, women, from, basically invading those locations. So they give it that critical wildlife area designation, so there's some enforcement behind it if somebody does something stupid like tromp on nesting bird eggs.
Well, this might be a little bit outside of I'm not trying to insult you in any way. I don't know if I'm asking a question that is wrong or that you can't answer, and I'm not trying to do that. I'm interested to know what the answer to this is. If the homeowners are determined to own that property that the critical wildlife area is on, does that mean anything different than the state saying, hey, it's a critical wildlife area, you can't do anything to it, and the homeowner saying, hey, it's my property, I can do whatever I want to it, you can't tell me I can't? I mean, how does that work itself out?
Regardless of the land ownership, if the state establishes it as a critical wildlife area, then it's an area that protects wildlife, and there's enforcement provisions behind it, so that if you do something untoward the population that's establishing there, the state has enforcement capacity to go in and fine someone for doing something negative.
But I think that the point you were first making, and then you went on to a different point, because I know what you're trying to do here. The first point is that if the designation remains in effect, that the state or some other group would foot more of the bill for the renourishment of that area, versus if that designation wasn't there, then it would fall to a local town.
Well, if it wasn't designated as critical wildlife area and it didn't have value to our shorebird populations, then it's likely that would fall under the same restoration funding process as the rest of the restoration areas.
Okay.
However, because of its critical wildlife area designation, it has a higher value, and the state is likely more willing to step in to help do what's necessary to protect that location.
What about places where it's more like where there's not public access? So if there's a stretch where it's just homeowners, okay, then how does that change, like funding wise? Do you know? I'm not sure.
Well, I'm not sure how they've established the funding for the project. Usually it's a mix of different funding sources,
right?
And usually there is some sort of a property assessment based on the economic impact, based on the storm protection benefits. That's usually the two things that you look at: is storm protection benefits and economic impact.
This project here is state, county, and town. There's no homeowner that I know of. Like, the homeowners don't have to pay for any of it.
I don't know
that's
how
what I've seen. I mean, maybe they're paying it a different way, but it didn't seem like it was in the proposal. And just to answer Mary's question, the plan is 2023. I don't think that the town has actually approved the plan yet. I think they're still going through the permitting and deciding. Well, they can't really do most of or all of it because of the critical wildlife area lawsuit. The funding aspect of it, they don't know who's going to pay for that part of it. And I think they have to choose whether they want to piggyback on something going on with the county in a different area. And it's a $23 million project that was pitched to them a couple of weeks ago or last week. And the thing that's really fascinating, Hans, is the way they do it with the, with the piping it in from. Can you explain the process of how they pipe that sand in from?
So now you stole my question.
Sorry. That's pretty cool.
Sure, Kim, I can answer your question.
Thank you so much, Hans.
Good question, Kim.
There's lots of different ways to do beach restoration projects, and I've been involved in usually on the administrative side, not as the consulting engineering side. I was a Cap Erosion Prevention District Commissioner back in the 80s, so from an elected official standpoint, I have experience, and we also provided administrative services for the CEPD prior to this last restoration project. But the in that particular project, which is similar to this one here, they identify a sand source.
Mhm.
And depending where that sand source is located, that's what defines the type of dredging operation that you're going to pursue. In this particular case, what they'll do is they'll have, it can be a trailing arm suction dredge. It can be a cutter head dredge. There's lots of different types of dredges.
None of that makes any sense to me.
Well,
whatever.
it's details on how
When
you
you say
excavate.
dredging, when I think dredging, I think you're cleaning the bottom of the ocean.
And there's a variety of ways that you can do that.
Mhm.
So you can do, like, for example, a hopper barge. You can have a trailing arm suction dredge that basically is riding along the bottom, and it's basically sucking up the sand and pumping it into a very large ship. Once that ship is full, then that ship goes towards the land, basically finds a connection, just like an oil tanker would offload oil to an oil refinery. This dredge would then hook up to this pipeline, fluidizes the sand. It's just
Into a
sucked up
slurry.
into a slurry. Very good. She's got her terminology down. And
She was up
basically
late last
pump
night.
that to the beach.
Right.
So that's one way that you can do that.
Before you go on to the next way, are you talking about them doing? This may come across as a dumb question. I apologize. Are you talking about them going out from here and doing the dredging and picking the sand up right here and then shooting it? I thought they were just going to truckload it in from somewhere.
No.
I'm not asking you, Mr. Engineer. I'm asking the engineer.
On the thing, there's sites out there that are designated
It
as.
depends on how you're going to do the excavation.
I
For Captiva, for example, the reason why they use a hopper ship, trailing arm suction dredge, is because their sand source is 8 or 9 miles offshore.
No, this is
For this location, they can use a cutter head suction dredge. And a cutter head suction dredge is it's a different operation. What happens is you have, similar to the way they dredged Matanzas Pass by the Corps of Engineers, you basically have a large ship, and it's got this big rotating head that's lays on the bottom, and it churns through the bottom, and it sucks the sand in, and then it pumps it through pipelines. And there's 2 pipelines proposed for the location. Pumps it through those pipelines onto the beach.
How long are the pipes?
Can you?
Well, it depends on how far out the
I have a bunch of
dredge is
questions I want to
located.
get to.
Chill out. We don't have a hard stop. Relax.
All right.
We don't have to go to the Lover's
that's
Key
the
until
second
7.
kind that they can do. And then there's other types of dredges. You can have a mechanical dredge where they just basically, like in a harbor that you see big, where they do maintenance dredging for a ship berth. It's just a big claw dredge that they pick up and put into a hopper. So that's not what this project
How do they
would
know? How do they determine the sand is out there? Is it some kind of X-ray machine from a satellite or something? Or
no. You basically look at possible locations. If the engineer is experienced, they can kind of eyeball some appropriate locations and dive it first to make sure we don't have any reef habitat that would be negatively affected by the digging. And then they do what's called vibrocores. They take a barge and they basically put a big core down through the soil, and then they pull those cores out, they lay them out, and then they assess what the sand looks like.
Right.
Is it shell? Is it sand? Is it marl? Is there clay in it? Is it an inappropriate product to put up on a beach, or is it proper? So they usually pick 4 or 5 different sites to test.
I see.
And then you go for the site that is the closest, if possible, that doesn't have a negative impact on your neighbors anywhere, and because that keeps the cost down.
Right. So once they bring the sand on, and we get to that, then they have to put how do they spread it out? Like, there's going to be some heavy equipment, or?
Yes. Generally what they do is they sort of create a dish along the shoreline, and they start pumping into this dish, and the bulldozers push it off to the sides. They keep pushing it off to the sides, and that slurry flows down that ditch or that dish in that trench until it finally settles out enough that the discharge back into the ocean is, relatively low in turbidity. And as they keep advancing the pipeline and building the beach, the bulldozers are then behind, grading it to the proper elevation.
And then Bill Perry comes out with his rake and he rakes over it and makes it all pretty.
So they can't, obviously there's only certain times a year that you could be doing that
Yeah, you
because
don't.
of wildlife. And,
Well, you don't do a beach restoration project during turtle nesting season if you can avoid it.
right.
If you do, then there's so many conditions associated with that in terms of
worth it.
monitoring that it could be problematic.
So,
So can I ask just a couple of
he's
other
looking at his
questions?
watch, dear.
I know he's
Wrap
got to
it up.
go. So
got a golf game.
are there ways? Are there any other tools in the toolbox to mitigate erosion other than just renourishment every however many years it gets done?
There are, but they are not. How do I say, environmentally compatible?
Okay.
Case in point, again, dropping back to my experiences with Captiva Island back in the 70s, the early 70s, because of the erosion along the shoreline, a lot of residents built riprap structures, big, large rock structures, revetments is what they're called, along their coastline. And that protected the upland. But in time, the beach face lowered to the point where there was no longer any beach left. You couldn't walk the beach. You had to walk rocks unless it was a super low tide. And so I think the realization that this was negative also eliminated turtle nesting habitat.
Right.
That the best solution was beach restoration, because what it does is it allows the waves to break further offshore, so you don't have direct wave impacts. It creates turtle nesting habitat, which is really important. And it also creates habitat for other critters as well.
What about building up the dunes and vegetated dunes?
Very important, because it's a trip mechanism. When we have storm events and storm surge, those waves break offshore, but they're still with enough storm surge, that water moves onto the beach. The dunes themselves are an additional defense mechanism.
Can you put dunes in?
Holy moly, dear.
Can you put dunes in? Can you create?
You can build dunes. You can mound the sand up and plant it. And
Okay.
the interesting thing about beach dunes is that they are self-propagating, which basically says that if you build the basic shape of the dune and you plant it, the plants, as the wind moves the sand around, the plants collect that sand and it builds that dune more and more.
Okay.
And so you get additional protection.
Somebody, Maria says jetties with a question mark.
Well, jetties address littoral transport. And when I say littoral, it's Littoral. And what that means is based on the dynamics of the coastline, the sand moves usually from north to south along our coast, generally speaking. So if that sand is moving down the coast, and it's a very slow process, you don't see, unless it's during a storm event and you have a lot of wind blowing from the northwest, for example. Well, here it actually have to be coming from the west to really see it well. That sand, you can see that wave movement and that sand moving down the coast. Well, if you put a jetty out, it'll collect the sand on the updrift side,
but
starves the downdrift side, because that sand is intended to move naturally through the coastline.
I believe there's one.
There's one right at about its point.
I see.
And so that's what they've seen, is that on one side it builds up, but the other side it goes down.
That jetty functions differently. That jetty functions to keep the sand from flowing into the Kansas Pass.
Okay.
So it's a collector for that sand, because the sand does move to the north or to the west in that location.
Do you sit at home with your wife and like talk about this kind of stuff? Is it interest her?
No,
like,
I sit at home and I listen to my wife.
Okay, good plan, man.
She talks to me.
Yeah.
And it's nothing about what we do.
I see. So what is the ideal stretch of sand from the seawall to the water? What if in your perfect world, how far?
What width?
Yeah.
Well,
That's a design consideration that is determined by the wave dynamics of the area. It's determined by the orientation of the shoreline. It's determined by the pockets of the people paying for it. There's a lot of factors that go into.
I just
what's
think
the
more
design.
sand, the more beach they have here, the more money they can make, and I think that's really what they're thinking about here.
There is clearly a huge benefit to beach restoration from the standpoint, if I remember correctly, there was a study that was done, and you'll have to forgive me, I don't remember the exact
We forgive you.
dollar relationship, but it was basically for every 5 or 10 cents that's spent on a beach restoration project, there's a dollar return.
No doubt. Yeah.
And so it's really hard to take a position that's anti-beach restoration because there's so many positive things about it. The only things that you could possibly imagine that would be negative would be impacts to where you're dredging the material from.
Yeah.
But we have a huge sand sink offshore from here that comes from Sanibel, and there's a lot of sand.
So
out there.
there's no worry of that. I mean, I know
No.
there's other areas in the U.S. that have a problem finding sand, but we're good here.
That's correct.
Okay.
On the East Coast, particularly because we have hard bottom habitat.
Do jet skis negatively affect the sand in any way, or the
personal
restoration?
watercraft?
Yeah.
No differently than a boat.
I see. Just kidding, everybody. Just kidding. So how fast can a turtle fly from here to Key West, in your opinion? Like, not fly, but the turtles, when they get in that friggin' rip current, have you seen how fast? What the hell is it?
I watched Nemo.
No shit, man. No, not Nemo.
Finding Nemo.
No, there's
Finding Nemo. You saw the turtle current.
No, I'm talking real life stuff here. What am I? It wasn't the rip current, was it?
No, it's not.
It was the jet stream.
Yeah.
The Gulf Stream.
The Gulf Stream. How fast they can go 70 miles an hour, no doubt, right?
Turtles?
Yeah, those big giant. What are those big giant turtles called? There was a video of I think that might have been Skiff or SCCF out in Sanibel they have a tracker on the turtle.
Right.
What is the turtle called? The big fat turtle, the giant
loggerheads.
The loggerheads.
Well, you got loggerheads.
You've got
dude, those things can
green turtles. You got
green
leather
turtles.
And then the little Kemp Swibley.
They're beautiful.
I know.
Cut it out.
If you have turtle questions, you should talk to Eve Haverfield from Turtle Time.
What does she do?
Oh, stop.
I know.
She's my boss on Saturday. Why?
Yeah,
oh, you have a yellow shirt. You're a yellow shirter.
Absolutely.
Nice. Now, do you think those little turtles, being that you're from Turtle Time, when they hatch, they get disoriented from the lights? Do they get stuck under the chairs, the beach chairs, or anything on the?
Yeah, you got to remove all the furniture.
Yeah.
What are the rules? What are the rules for that kind of?
Well,
stuff?
there's all kinds of rules. It's usually driven by the local government as to what you have to do with your.
Are you running for office in any way?
No,
Would you ever
I've done it, and I'm not doing
no
that.
kidding.
Ever again.
What did you run for?
I was a commissioner for the Captive Erosion Prevention District. It was an elected position.
Oh,
he
I didn't know
said that earlier, but you.
I was too busy.
That was my one and only effort to politically contribute. Yeah.
Was it a 4-year term or 2?
It was 4 years.
Did you get like calls every night of the week?
Well, when I was elected to the board there, much of the island was opposed to beach restoration.
Really?
And there had already been a pilot project done at South Seas Plantation back in 1981. And it was very successful. And so I came in as a proponent for beach restoration and went up against a number of commissioners that were not for it.
And why were they not for it?
Yeah.
It was an education about benefits. They just didn't understand.
Like the cost, they thought the cost outweighed the benefits. Okay.
There was so many factors that go into establishing a beach restoration project, and it was work to get my fellow commissioners on board. And it was basically done through an education process where they finally understood the benefits. And in 1988 is when we did our first beach restoration project that was island-wide on Captiva.
Now, how long have we been doing beach restoration in the U.S.?
I think that the first project was done in Del Rey back in the 60s.
Wow.
I mean, there's some history to it.
That's not very long.
Nope.
All right. Do we miss anything, Hans? Do we? I know we kept you over, but the conversation, people were totally fascinated by the conversation, by the way. No joke. I mean, because beach restoration is huge here on Fort Myers Beach.
It is.
I mean, when that tide comes up, it comes all the way up to these buildings, and then there's nowhere to go for. And I wonder how that's going to impact, like, right here on the other side of Times Square, where at times the beach is
all the way
can't
up.
even sit there.
Well, you can't walk there when
well,
it's high tide.
It'll advance the Mean High water line further out, and so you'll have a much broader beach. You have more room to recreate.
Yeah.
So there's tremendous benefits from a recreation standpoint as well.
And it's quite expensive.
And then what is it? How long does it last? Like,
it depends on a number of factors.
I know there's the 10-year.
They have a renourishment profile that 10 years. That's in the plan, and but. You know, we could have, and this is what a lot of people that are opposed to beach restoration say. Well, you know, we could have a storm next year that washes it all out.
Right.
Well, that's because it's a sacrificial product. It's intended to be taken out because it then protects the upland property from damage. Right. Otherwise, you'd have the upland properties taken out.
Gotcha.
Right.
So, Lee,
and then you just have to go out and pull it back in.
Right.
Our good friend Lee Melsick, who used to work for the News Press. First of all, he said that he covered the Delray beach renourishment, the first one. I think that's what he means. He covered that. Like
that makes him surprise.
It makes him wicked old. First of all, and the second thing is his facts. He's got all the facts in the 70s. No, not that one. He said, he's
right
been
there.
the Mariana Trench Challenger Deep is 7 miles deep.
There you go.
35,800 feet, located between Guam and the Philippines.
There you go.
Pacific. All right.
There you go.
Do you think he Googled that, or you think he knew that?
He might have known that.
Yeah.
He's a pretty intelligent guy.
Oh, you know Lee.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Anything that we missed, Hans, about your salary, or I don't mean that. I mean about your fishing and your man. You can tell stories, so I'm sure you could tell underwater like Jacques Cousteau stories, like.
I will tell you one thing, and then
Oh,
I'll
cool.
get out of here and leave you guys go.
Thank you.
How I got into
What that
ocean
means
engineering.
is I want to get out of
His
here. Yeah,
wife
go
is
ahead.
calling.
No, I mean, I understand we're wrapping it up.
Apologize
No,
to your
we're
daughter.
not. We're not rapping. I just got to pee like a racehorse, but
I
that's
understand
normal.
that. How I fell into ocean engineering was interesting because I was already a scuba diver and I already had a business doing cleaning boat bottoms and repairing props. I mean, pulling props and basically things like that.
Right.
Working in the marine up at Southeast Plantation. And I was at Edison Community College and I saw this brochure and it showed an engineering program and they were diving. And I thought, I can go to school and I can get an engineering degree and
get
dive
paid for that.
No kidding. How
Right.
cool is
and that was what pulled me in. What I didn't know at the time was that the FAU Ocean Engineering program was being run by a lot of retired Navy guys. And the attrition rate for first timers was close to 50%.
Why?
Wow.
So if you could get through the first year of school at FAU, you were doing pretty good.
Because it was hard.
So you're a Navy SEAL, is what you're saying?
No,
No.
I'm not a Navy SEAL.
I see.
I have no military background other than a Boy Scout.
There
Cool.
you go.
So there you go.
So what are you doing this weekend? I mean, what are you and the
He's
wife
going to
planned?
see his daughter.
That's
Yeah.
right. That's right.
Yeah.
I was up in Sarasota, so we're going to go visit.
Sarasota's super nice too. I mean,
is.
when you go to
Oh,
Sarasota,
they have some nice beaches up
Yes,
there.
they do.
do you
Siesta
say,
Key.
do you stand out, Siesta
That
Key, and
beach
say,
is big
I can
too.
fix this here, and they need to do
No.
that there? And
I don't do beach restoration projects.
How is
I
that?
see.
That their beach is wide up there.
It is, and they've
Yeah.
done beach restoration
Have they?
projects up there, so they have their own program that they pursue.
cool. Well,
All
Hans,
right,
thank
well,
you so
thank
much
you
for
so
putting
much.
up with my gibberish, but you've been a ton of fun,
It's got to
man.
be
Thank you.
entertaining,
Thank
otherwise
you.
people
That's
won't
right, that's
listen. I
right.
get
Right.
that.
She doesn't
Right.
get that. I get that, but she doesn't get
Well,
that.
you just go on too long. So
We have this fight every Saturday
I
night
think
out in the
people
backyard.
really like though the facts and to take a
I
deep
know,
dive
dear. Everybody
into
loves
stuff.
the facts. We get to
People
the
like-
facts eventually.
They're-
Now he
people
wants
like
to lead,
get
dear.
educated.
He doesn't
Thank
wanna
you
hear
so
us.
much.
I'm happy anytime you let
Thank
me
you
talk
so
about
much.
the project. Happy
I mean,
to participate.
seriously, you could do a podcast on your own with all that information. I mean, down here, that kind of information is golden. It keeps people glued to it because the beach
actually-
means so much to people. I mean, it's their life.
And there are podcasts out there about
What is your
about
top
this
3
topic.
podcast recommendations for the
Do
kind of
you
stuff that
listen
you
to
do?
podcasts?
No, I don't have the
Okay.
I usually don't listen
I
to that
see.
stuff. But
What's your favorite radio station?
Who listens?
well,
to
I like
radio?
listening to Radio Garden. There's,
Radio Garden.
Yeah, there's
Hmm.
2 stations I like to listen to. Actually, there's 3. One of them is Austin Blues Radio.
Okay,
That's-
where are you listening to that? On Sirius?
It's a website. It's just called
So-
radiogarden.com.
Okay.
So I like to listen to Austin Blues Radio because they play a lot of music that you don't hear that's normal, the standard.
Yeah.
Music City Roadhouse comes out of Nashville. And then there's a station that I like to listen to when I'm working that comes out of Orlando called Journeyscapes. And I love that radio, that location, because you can listen to music from anywhere in the world. I've actually got a chant station that comes out of Mumbai, India, that's pretty interesting to listen to.
Wow.
So
Beach Talk Radio has a radio station.
I have
All beach music.
Yep.
Just tell Alexa.
I'll have to check it out.
All right.
What is it? Live 365?
I'll tell him. He's not going to listen to it. He's listening to sophisticated
Thank
stuff.
you so much
Hans,
for
you're
coming
welcome.
on. Appreciate
Engineer,
it.
thank you so much for
Thanks for
coming
having me.
down all the way down here and putting up with my wife's shenanigans. Wow, that was a lesson and a half, everybody. And before Kim, my wife, is going to tell you about the Tiki tours, we are going to talk about briefly the jet ski situation, just briefly, after we read about beach pottery, because our friends at Beach Pottery on Dead Man's Curve over there, you want to slow down before you get to Dead Man's Curve and pull into Beach Pottery and get yourself some beautiful pots from Vietnam and from, where else are they from? Mexico. Yes, and they have pots of all ages and all sizes and all sorts and all colors, and you can fit anything in these pots. And they have beach furniture, and they have wood carvings from the carver guy in the back with the chainsaw. I mean, it's art. It's really art. It's pots, planters of every size, $5 to $500. We love Alana. Kurt was here today having breakfast with Scott and Jackie. They're super nice people. They're a great family. They're an awesome business, and they're located at 17980 San Carlos Boulevard, which is on the way to the beach. So when you're stuck in traffic, as you will be if you're coming to Fort Myers Beach, especially now during season, you're going to stop right by and you're going to spend some of your hard-earned money at the beach pottery. Or you can call and say, Alana, Ed said I need something from Vietnam. 437-4211. That's 437-4211. And now I'm going to send it over to my trusty sidekick who is ready to go.
All right. You know what time it is. It's time for Fort Myers Tiki Tours. We talk about them every week. Take a relaxing 90-minute tour around the Fort Myers Beach Intercoastal on a Hawaiian-style tiki hut. You and 5 of your guests, friends, family, you could take strangers if you want to. Just bring somebody and sit back, relax while the captain drives you around. So they supply the captain. They supply a cooler and ice, and you can bring whatever you want to drink or eat, and you will get to see all sorts of hopefully nice wildlife. When we went out for Father's Day, we saw some dolphin. You might see a manatee. You might see a sea turtle if you're super, super lucky. But in any event, give them a call at 239-887-0042. That's 239-887-0042. They take out off of out at Salty Sam's, that's where the Taste of the Beach is going to be. So give them a call. He's still in the bathroom, so I'm going to stretch this out a little bit. Let's see. They have all the safety gear. They have a Bluetooth stereo system, so you can listen to whatever you want. People will take your picture, because who wouldn't take a picture of a tiki boat kind of floating around? It's not something you normally see. And he returns. All right, dear. Welcome back. Do you feel better? You're not feeling any better? You got to get your cans on and switch the camera around, because don't worry about it, dear. We only have a few people listening. You can keep messing around. Look at how much time this takes. Oh, Maron.
You're supposed to learn how to ad lib. Well, I'm rushing, but
I don't do so well. You do much better at it. I get all tongue tied.
When I can't sleep, I have like 3 cups of coffee so far and 2 Monsters. And of course, I've had a Blue Moon or 2. And so I have to go to the bathroom every once in a while. I apologize, but let's move on. Tonight, we can't wait to see everybody at the Lover's Key. What are you looking for the comments there? You get to read them after. We want to say thank you to Christy Hennessy for inviting us.
Yes, we're looking forward to it tonight.
We're going to get to dress up, and I've got this really cool Beach Talk Radio jacket. And can you imagine? How could you dress? Like, we were goofing around on the Facebook last night trying to ask people what they should wear, what we should wear, what people are going to wear. Like, I think I have I think I have the right clothing, but I definitely don't have any shoes. Like, if I have a nice pair of slacks, I have a pair of black shoes that go with my suit, and that's going to look silly.
Right.
So, and then people are saying you got to go down to Anita's shop and get dressed. Then they'll dress you up nice and put the right stuff on you. I'll tell you,
she has some amazing stuff. I really love all of her stores. It's
going to be so nice to hang out with the hoity-toity crowd tonight. They're all going to be all dressed up, and there's going to be Ed sitting in the corner like, oh wow, I mean, what are you supposed to do? I don't even know what you're supposed to do at a party like that. I hope we can
just pull this off a little bit, because it's kind of out of our comfort zone, the formalness of things. Yeah. So it did say beach formal, so we will do our best to dress appropriately, not embarrass ourselves or Christy.
So, dear, I would like to, before we go, talk to you about this controversy going on with the jet ski and the parasail operators and the TPI request, or what's going on with that. You saw the story, and I tried to do my best in writing the story yesterday in the newsletter. If you don't get the newsletter, you can subscribe to it for free, of course, by going to our website and looking at the newsletter, or looking for the newsletter tab and putting your email in. And I tried to keep it down the middle for the story. And I watched all the comments on Facebook, because there were people that were saying it wasn't going to be down the middle because of my clear support for Margaritaville. And I felt like it was. I felt like it was just putting the facts out there. I mean, I did talk to Bill Perry. I talked to Bill Spikowski. I talked to Anita. Talked to Jim Adderholt. You know, they gave me some background stuff. And then I went and watched all the meetings. We watched all the meetings, and we see what's going on. And so I want to first, before I say anything, I want to hear what you think about the whole situation going on there. And for a real quick,
what I'm going to do.
A 30-second recap. TPI wants to rent jet skis, and I don't know if it's parasails, but for sure jet skis on their property, which is going to be prime location on the beach, right next to the park there. And there are no licenses available. The town only gives out like 11 licenses for jet skis and 7 licenses for parasails, and they're all taken up. And all the operators are respected operators on the beach, I think. I mean, we've had several of them on the show, and I think they all do a great job of keeping people safe and running a good operation and all that. And so now he has a piece of property, and he can't work out a deal, or hasn't to this point been able to work out a deal with one of them. And he was, I don't know if promise is the right word, but back when they were negotiating the entire project, which included the density, included the restaurants, and included the land swap, I think TPI was under the impression that he didn't have to worry about getting the permit or being able to provide that service to the people at the resort. And now it's like there are no licenses, so you can't do it. And the town council is looking at changing the ordinance so he can do it, and the operators are not happy about that. So here we are. And your thought is? Sometimes you have to tell the story. Not everybody has read it.
But here's the thing. You're telling it, and somebody else may interpret.
I'm just trying to tell it clearly.
It's your
not an interpretation. I'm trying to just
if it wasn't
be factual. It's not an opinion.
If it was a black or white thing, though, I think
that part is.
There wouldn't be this much, going back and forth, because it would be this or it's that.
Well, okay.
And I think
to your point, before you give your opinion, I'm trying to save you from your opinion. To your point, if somebody promised TPI that he would be able to do that, then they should follow through on their promise. If that was what took place back then, if they kind of made the insinuation that you could do it knowing that there was going to be a license issue, then that's scummy. If somebody did that to him and said, yeah, don't worry about it because we want the piece of property, or we want this and you got to give us that, and but don't worry about that. Well, that'll be fine because you'll be able to do that, knowing that there was a cap on the license. Then that's a screw job right there. And I don't know what was said back there. We weren't even around then.
That's the thing. You don't know what was said. I don't know what was said. There's a long history. There's a lot of things that go into this discussion, shall we say. There's a lot of things, and there's people on both sides, which is why, it's hard to take an opinion, because you want to listen to everything. You want to get fully educated, and it's complicated. And I do think that some stuff is up for it's perspective. I mean, otherwise, if it was all if everything was in writing, the rules were clear and the agreements were in writing, then
that's right. It's not. There is nothing in writing. You're right about that. And what we're talking about, you can look it up yourself, is the ordinance chapter 27 of the town's ordinance says there are X number of licenses. And if you don't have a license, you either have to buy a license from an operator, or you're out of luck. If you can't get one, you can't get one, and that's just the way it is. And that was done. I understand why it was done that way. It was done for safety reasons, and I'm all about keeping people safe. I don't want anybody to get hurt or killed on a jet ski or a parasail. And I understand back in the day, it was like the Wild West. I think Bill called it like he called it like I don't know. People, there was some word that he used that I forgot what it was, but people were getting killed on those machines because people were coming from out of town, and there was 30 operators. He said 30, and there was no regulation.
What I wonder, I just wonder where, and I looked, but I couldn't find any specific, like, are there designations that they have to be, like, is there a state law or whatever that says for safety reasons you have to be this far apart, or you can only have this many jet skis out in a shared area at this time? I mean, there's a lot of issues because, as you've said, this is kind of the area
everybody
where
wants to be.
Right. So if it was like, okay, everybody had to be 1,000 yards apart, I mean, somebody's going to be 2 miles down the road. There may not be the same business.
Well, here's the thing.
There.
Here's the thing about I think that the ordinance lays it out crystal clear as far as how to operate one of those businesses. And I want every business on Fort Myers Beach to make as much money from these tourists as they can. I mean, raise the prices on everything. If they're coming down, make as much money as you can, and tip well, by the way, when you're at your restaurants. But I think that the ordinance, that the way that the town from the county wrote it up, it explains it perfectly. There are rules on how many jet skis you can have. There are rules on how far you have to be 500 feet apart. Some were grandfathered in, I think, before 1996 when the town was incorporated, because that's how long it was going on. So I agree with all of the ordinance except for one thing, that the government put a cap on the number of businesses. And I think that's unfair. That's not. Wait, let me explain why. I think that's not the way this country works. It's not being capitalistic. If you're going to say it's about safety, it's about safety. Keep them 500 feet apart, 750 feet apart, 1,000 feet apart. But you have no right to cap. You have the right. You can do whatever you want to do. But in my opinion, you should not cap the business at any number until you run out of space. Now, if a resort goes in on the other end of the island, where there isn't as much activity as what's going on right here, they can't self-perform either, because they have to go to this group of people and say, hey, can you come down and maybe we can work out a deal, or maybe I can buy your license for $3 million or whatever the number is. And if they can't work out a deal, that guy's at the end of the island is screwed. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying that the end of the island could be developed. I don't know that, but that's an example. Everybody wants to be in this spot, and I get it. That's where the bodies are. That's
why your argument about no cap, I mean, I hear what you're saying, but if there was no cap and everyone wants to be here, it wouldn't.
How do you know that?
What would be the point?
My point is, that's the only thing I disagree with. Now that has nothing to do with TPI. Honestly, I don't jet ski, so I don't that whole idea I have no opinion on whether Margaritaville has jet skis or not. It doesn't matter to me. It's not my thing. But my point is, I don't like when government puts a cap on the category of business. We ran a business. It would have sure been nice if I could have gone to the county and said, hey, let me help you write this ordinance. And by the way, I'd prefer it if in the ordinance it said every 5 miles there couldn't be a gym. Mm-hmm. But that would be nice. But every day we had to worry that Gold's Gym was coming in at the time, or whatever gym was coming in. Now they're on every street corner.
Well, again,
but I know it's about the safety. It's not apples and apples.
Right.
But my point is, I said 500 feet, 1,000 feet. The only thing I disagree with is the cap. Now you have this small group of people that really does dictate to the businesses whether or not they're going to get a license. And that just doesn't seem like it's not the way you're not. How nice would it be for John to say, hey, let me write an ordinance that says, because alcohol is dangerous and people drink and drive, we probably shouldn't have another restaurant for 500 feet.
Here's the thing. Things change, situations change, the landscape of things changes, and so you have to revisit the rules that are in place. And so this may be a time to look at Well, it will be. Now they're going to look at it. They're going
Right.
to look at how this is and whether it was, something that was in the agreement to begin with.
Well, nobody's going to see. And then there's the anti-TPI crowd run by Joanne Champ and her crew, who Joanne Champ will go down as her legacy will be that she cried on the town council. But she's trying to butt in with
inappropriate.
No, it isn't.
And it's not.
She's
it's not
got public
relevant.
She's trying to say to everybody that was never
Don't
promised, that was never part of
everything.
it. All right.
It just. I apologize.
Apology accepted.
No, not to you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Not to you.
Anyway, enough about that. Well, good luck to everybody. I hope everybody figures it out. Maybe they can just work out a deal. TPI can work out a deal with one of the vendors and the end of story. But the thing too that they were able to sell.
I wonder how. I just wonder other places if other, large resorts operate their own, boat tours or this or that or wherever they are. I mean,
you mean outside of Fort Myers Beach?
Yeah, I guess I would assume if I was going to some place that it would all be under the same umbrella. But I have learned.
And then Ginger says, why don't you get somebody on the show about the facts? That's why I don't invite anybody from that group on the show, because it's only they have the facts. That group has the facts and nobody else has the facts. I mean, that's why when I wrote the story this week, I didn't interview anybody from the group, and I didn't interview from anybody from TPI, because their view of the facts is the only way things are.
Here's
That's
the thing.
That's
this
why.
This show is not about that. The facts and the people with the facts will go to town council.
That's right. We'll fight it,
and they'll discuss the facts. But that's what I'm saying to you. If things are written down, it should be black and white. But we know that that's not how it is. There's perspective on things. It's not black or white. I mean, some things are, but
no. My only opinion was on the cap. That's it. I don't think government should cap things, and that was it. I wish them all good luck.
Well, you went 500 minutes on stuff.
All right.
Other stuff.
We'll see you all at Lover's Key tonight, or we won't. So thank you very much, and have a great day. Bye-bye.